The projector in the conference room was still humming when my security badge blinked from green to red. I'm Gerald Brooks, 49 years old, and I just watched 17 years of my life get stolen in under 5 minutes. Russell Coleman, the CEO's 28-year-old son, didn't even look at me when he said it. Just straightened his designer tie and announced to the room like he was ordering lunch. Gerald will be transferring full ownership of Aegis Core to Coleman Technologies, effective immediately. Here's the thing about Aegis Core, it wasn't just software. It was quantum encryption technology that I'd built from scratch, algorithm by algorithm over 17 years, the system protecting half of our defense contracts and financial networks, worth $1.8 billion in patents alone. And now this kid was taking it like it belonged to him. Nobody said a word. Not the CFO sitting 2 chairs down, not the legal team who'd helped me write the original contracts back in 2007. Not even my own engineering leads, whose careers I'd built from nothing over the past decade. I closed my laptop, gathered my notes, and stood up. Russell finally looked at me then, probably expecting me to argue or beg or throw a fit. Instead, I just asked Russell, "You sure you've read Clause 21.3? The company's chief legal counsel, same guy who'd helped me draft that clause 17 years ago when I was 32 and paranoid about getting screwed, suddenly found his paperwork very interesting." Russell just stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I nodded once, signed the termination papers they slid across the table, and walked out. But before I left the room, I stopped at the door. "Enjoy your moment," I said. "Sunrise isn't far away. You know what's funny?" Russell had no idea what I meant. None of them did. See, back in 2007, when I first joined Coleman Technologies at 32 years old, I wasn't some fresh college grad. I'd spent 8 years in the Navy Seabees, building communications infrastructure in places where one wrong calculation could get people killed. Then 4 years grinding through MIT part-time while working civilian engineering jobs to pay the bills. By the time I walked into Coleman's lobby, I had 14 years of real-world experience and a healthy distrust of people who promised to take care of me. The founder, Howard Stevens, was a Navy man too. He understood that attention to detail isn't just about perfectionism, it's about survival. When we sat down to write my employment contract, he said something I'll never forget. "Gerald, in the Navy, you learned that systems fail when people get lazy. In business, people get lazy when they think they own something they didn't build. We called it the Mirror Vault Clause. Basically a legal failsafe that required dual authentication for any intellectual property transfer. My signature plus Federal Patent Registry confirmation. Without both, ownership would automatically revert to the original creator. Me, I'd embedded my own encryption into every contract signature field I'd ever touched. Not because I was planning anything sneaky, but because I'd seen too many brilliant engineers get screwed over by suits who didn't understand the first thing about what they were stealing. Howard used to say, build it right, protect it well. If Coleman ever forgot who actually built their golden goose, the system would remember for them. The elevator ride up to my office felt longer than usual. My badge still worked on floor 22, probably because Russell was too eager to fire me to think about access protocols. Amateur mistake number 1. My office looked exactly the same as it had that morning. Papers neatly stacked, 3 monitors still glowing with lines of code that now belonged to someone else, according to Russell. The white lab coat hanging on my chair still had a coffee stain from last week's all-nighter debugging the latest government contract. 17 years in this room. 17 years of skipped dinners, weekend calls, emergency fixes that started with only Gerald knows how to handle this. I'd saved Coleman from 4 major system collapses, written 7 patents in quantum encryption, and helped secure defense contracts that put the company on the global map. On my desk sat a framed photo from my early Navy days, me standing next to my Seabees unit after we'd finished installing secure communications for a forward operating base in Iraq. We were all grinning, covered in dust and sweat, but proud. The guy next to me, Petty Officer Martinez, had written on the back, "Attention to detail saves lives. He was right then, and he was right now." Next to it was another photo from my early Coleman days, me standing next to Howard Stevens in our old lab. Both of us grinning like we just discovered fire. Howard's tie was crooked, my hair was a mess, but his handwritten caption along the bottom was still perfectly clear. Build it right, protect it well. Howard had retired 5 years ago when Lawrence Coleman bought him out. Smart man got out before the company turned from an engineering lab into a corporate showroom. The old guard left, the lawyers multiplied, and guys like Russell started treating technology like a family inheritance. I packed slowly, deliberately. Rushing would have felt like defeat. The patent certificate for Aegis Core sat in its silver frame, catching afternoon light through the window. I traced my name etched beneath the official seal, feeling that quiet pride that comes from building something that actually matters. My phone buzzed. Text from my son Danny. Dad, heard about the layoffs at Coleman. You okay? Danny was 24 now, working as a junior accountant in Phoenix. We'd been getting closer since his mother and I divorced 3 years ago. He was one of the few people who understood what my work actually meant. I typed back, more than okay? Big changes coming. What I didn't tell him was that I'd been supporting his grandmother, my 76-year-old mother, since she'd been diagnosed with diabetes last year. Her medical bills ran about $800 a month, and her Social Security barely covered rent on her little apartment. Without my Coleman salary, things were about to get tight, real tight. But Russell didn't know any of that when he decided to play corporate raider with other people's lives. When I shut down my computer, a single line of text appeared on the screen before it went black. Clause 21.3. Pre-verification pending. That night, I sat in my apartment watching city lights flicker like circuit boards. My old server tower hummed in the corner, the one I'd never connected to Coleman's network. Best decision I ever made, as it turned out. I opened my terminal and ran a diagnostic on the encryption seed tied to my digital signature. Everything was still there, still active. Somewhere in those algorithms was a sunrise trigger, a mechanism that would activate if anyone tried to forge my authorization without proper federal clearance. The countdown had already begun. My phone rang around 11 p.m., Danny calling back. Dad, seriously, are you all right? Mom said she heard Coleman was having problems. I looked out at the city, thinking about all those years I'd missed Danny's baseball games because I was debugging someone else's code, all the family dinners I'd skipped because Russell's father needed just one more emergency fix. You know, son, I think I'm about to be better than all right. My phone buzzed around midnight. Unknown number. Gerald. The voice was shaky, nervous. I recognized it. Someone from legal, probably calling from a burner phone. They don't know, do they? The clause is still active. It's counting down. I was watching the timer on my screen pulse like a heartbeat. Then, God help him. Gerald, I just want you to know some of us tried to warn them, but Lawrence shot down anyone who questioned his son. We pulled the original contracts from 2007. That mirror vault language is ironclad. Howard Stevens was thorough, I said. Navy trained us both to plan for the worst-case scenario. The line went dead. Let me tell you something about Russell Coleman. The kid graduated from Stanford with an MBA and immediately got handed a VP title at Daddy's company. Never wrote a single line of code. Never stayed late fixing a system crash. Never had his phone ring at 3 a.m. because a government contract was failing and only he knew how to save it. But he sure knew how to wear expensive suits and talk to investors about technological synergies and next-generation paradigms. Corporate speak for I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it sounds impressive. I'd watched Russell for 2 years, ever since Lawrence brought him in as VP of Innovation. The kid couldn't innovate his way out of a paper bag, but he was great at taking credit for other people's work. Started small, showing up to client meetings for projects he'd never touched, name-dropping technical details he'd overheard in the hallway, then he got bolder. Last month, he'd presented my quantum entanglement protocol to the Air Force as his own breakthrough. Stood there with a straight face, using terminology he'd clearly memorized but didn't understand, while I sat in the back row watching colonels nod approvingly at Russell's innovative approach. That's when I knew this day was coming. The next morning, I drove to the little cafe on the ground floor of the Coleman building. Call it morbid curiosity. But I wanted to watch Russell's big moment up close. The place was half empty, filled with the usual crowd of office workers grabbing overpriced coffee before another day of meetings. The TV above the counter was tuned to the local business channel, sound turned low. At exactly 9 a.m., there was Russell on screen, standing behind a podium with the Coleman logo gleaming behind him. He looked every inch the confident young executive. Pressed Navy suit. Perfect hair. That practiced smile that screams trust fund baby. Today, he announced to the cameras, Coleman Technologies proudly confirms that we now hold complete ownership of Aegis Core, the revolutionary quantum encryption system that will define the future of global security. The small crowd in the cafe looked up from their phones, mildly interested. Most of them probably worked in the building, knew the company's reputation. Russell was their golden boy, the next generation of leadership. I ordered a black coffee and found a table by the window where I could see both the TV and the street outside. The bitter taste seemed appropriate. This breakthrough represents 17 years of collaborative innovation. Russell continued, and I almost choked on my coffee. Collaborative, right? Under Coleman's guidance, this technology will now reach its full potential in protecting America's most critical infrastructure. He kept using that word, guidance, like he'd been mentoring me all these years instead of the other way around. The kid had never even seen the core algorithms. They were stored on isolated systems that required biometric authorization, my biometric authorization, to access. The ticker at the bottom of the screen read, Coleman stock jumps 12% on technology acquisition news. Here's what made me angry. Not the theft itself, but the way he was selling it. Russell was up there talking about patriotism and national security, wrapping himself in the flag while claiming credit for work that had cost me 17 years of my life. Work that had cost me my marriage, countless family dinners, my son's Little League games. My ex-wife used to say I cared more about those systems than our family. Maybe she was right. But now, watching Russell celebrate stealing my work while my mother struggled with medical bills and Danny worried about his old man's future, I realized something important. I hadn't been protecting systems all these years. I'd been protecting people. The financial networks that kept Danny's paycheck secure. The defense communications that kept soldiers like my old CB's unit safe. The encryption protocols that stopped foreign governments from stealing American secrets. Russell didn't understand any of that. To him, Aegis Corps was just a number on a balance sheet, a way to impress investors and boost quarterly earnings. Around 10:30, my phone started buzzing with messages. Former colleagues, mostly junior engineers who'd worked under me over the years. Is it true? Did you really sign over Aegis? Heard you got fired. What's the real story? Russell's claiming he led the development team. We know that's garbage. Dennis Foster, the kid I'd been mentoring for the past 3 years, sent the most honest message. Mr. Brooks, this is wrong. Everyone knows you built that system. What can we do? I typed back. Sometimes the best thing you can do is watch the truth reveal itself. I didn't reply to the others. What was the point? In a few hours, the truth would speak for itself. My phone rang. Lawrence Coleman this time. Gerald, we need to talk. There's been some confusion about the patent documentation. I stayed seated at my cafe table, watching his building across the street. No confusion, Lawrence. The system is working exactly as designed. What system, Gerald? If you're planning some kind of legal challenge, we should discuss this professionally. Russell made a mistake, but we can work this out. Name your price. This isn't about money. Then what? Your job back, a consulting contract, equity stake. I watched a news van pull up outside the Coleman building. Word was getting out fast. I want integrity back in the industry. I want merit to matter more than last names. You're talking about destroying the company over hurt feelings. I'm talking about enforcing the law. The same law your son ignored when he decided to steal my life's work. Lawrence's voice got harder. You do realize Russell's announcement has already moved the stock price. Investors are committed based on our ownership of Aegis Corps. If you pull some legal stunt now, you'll wipe out millions in market value. I finished my coffee, left a tip on the table. Then you should have thought about that before you let your boy play with patents that didn't belong to him. The restaurant they'd chosen for Russell's celebration dinner was exactly what you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, wine list, longer than most people's resumes. The invitation had arrived by courier that afternoon, printed on thick paper with gold embossing. An appreciation dinner for legacy contributors to the Aegis Corps project. Legacy contributors. Like I was some retired consultant who'd helped out years ago. Not the guy who'd invented the whole damn thing. I wore my best suit, charcoal gray, nothing flashy. If you're going to watch someone hang themselves with their own rope, dress appropriately. My phone buzzed around midnight. Unknown number. Gerald? The voice was shaky, nervous. I recognized it. Someone from legal probably calling from a burner phone. They don't know, do they? The clause is still active. It's counting down. I was watching the timer on my screen pulse like a heartbeat. Then God help him. Gerald, I just want you to know some of us tried to warn them, but Lawrence shot down anyone who questioned his son. The line went dead. Let me tell you something about Russell Coleman. The kid graduated from Stanford with an MBA and immediately got handed a VP title at Daddy's company. Never wrote a single line of code. Never stayed late fixing a system crash. Never had his phone ring at 3 a.m. because a government contract was failing and only he knew how to save it. But he sure knew how to wear expensive suits and talk to investors about technological synergies and next-generation paradigms. Corporate speak for, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it sounds impressive. In the Navy, we had a saying, "The standard you walk past is the standard you accept." I'd been walking past Russell's incompetence for 2 years, watching him take credit for other people's work, letting his daddy protect him from consequences. No more. The next morning, I drove to the little cafe on the ground floor of the Coleman building. Call it morbid curiosity, but I wanted to watch Russell's big moment up close. The place was half empty, filled with the usual crowd of office workers grabbing overpriced coffee before another day of meetings. The TV above the counter was tuned to the local business channel. Sound turned low. At exactly 9 a.m., there was Russell on screen. Standing behind a podium with the Coleman logo gleaming behind him, he looked every inch the confident young executive. Pressed, navy suit, perfect hair, that practiced smile that screams trust fund baby. Today, he announced to the cameras, Coleman Technologies proudly confirms that we now hold complete ownership of Aegis Core, the revolutionary quantum encryption system that will define the future of global security. The small crowd in the cafe looked up from their phones, mildly interested. Most of them probably worked in the building, knew the company's reputation. Russell was their golden boy, the next generation of leadership. I ordered a black coffee and found a table by the window where I could see both the TV and the street outside. The bitter taste seemed appropriate. This breakthrough represents 17 years of collaborative innovation. Russell continued, and I almost choked on my coffee. Collaborative, right? Under Coleman's guidance, this technology will now reach its full potential in protecting America's most critical infrastructure. The ticker at the bottom of the screen read, Coleman stock jumps 12% on technology acquisition news. Here's what made me angry. Not the theft itself, but the way he was selling it. Russell was up there talking about patriotism and national security, wrapping himself in the flag while claiming credit for work that had cost me 17 years of my life. In the Seabees, we actually served our country, putting our lives on the line to keep communications secure in war zones. This kid was playing dress-up with concepts he didn't understand. My phone started buzzing with messages around 10:30. Former colleagues, mostly junior engineers who'd worked under me over the years. Is it true? Did you really sign over Aegis? Heard you got fired. What's the real story? Russell's claiming he led the development team. We know that's garbage. One message stood out. Dennis Foster, the junior engineer I'd been mentoring for the past 3 years. Good kid, reminded me a lot of myself at that age. Hungry to learn, willing to put in the work. Mr. Brooks, this is wrong. Everyone knows you built Aegis. What can we do? I typed back, nothing right now. But keep your eyes on the sunrise. Around lunchtime, I drove to my mother's apartment to check on her. She was sitting in her favorite chair by the window, working on a crossword puzzle, her medication organized in one of those weekly pill containers on the side table. Gerald, honey, you're home early, she said, looking up with that smile that reminded me why I'd been working so hard all these years. Everything all right at work. I sat down across from her, trying to figure out how to explain that her monthly medical bills just got a lot more complicated. Mom, there's been some changes at the company. I'm not going to be working there anymore. Her face went serious. At 76, she'd lived through enough economic ups and downs to know what job loss meant for a family. Oh, sweetheart, are you going to be okay? I know my medications are expensive. Don't worry about that, I said, taking her hand. I've got some things in motion. We're going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. She squeezed my hand. You know, your father always said you were the most stubborn person he'd ever met. When you set your mind to something, nothing could stop you. Navy trained that out of me, I said. Now I'm just persistent. She laughed. Same thing, different uniform. That afternoon, I got a call from an old Navy buddy, Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, who'd gone into defense contracting after his discharge. We'd kept in touch over the years, mostly trading war stories and complaining about civilian corporate culture. Gerald, you crazy bastard, I just saw the news. Coleman's kid is claiming he invented your encryption system. Something like that, I said. That's a load of crap and everyone in the defense community knows it. Your work on Aegis has saved more military communications than that kid will ever understand. You okay financially? I might have some contract work if you need it. Thanks, Rodriguez, but I think I'm about to be busier than I've been in years. What's that supposed to mean? Let's just say I learned more than just engineering in the Navy. I learned about preparation, patience, and making sure your backup systems work when you need them most. The restaurant they'd chosen for Russell's celebration dinner was exactly what you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, wine list longer than most people's resumes. The invitation had arrived by courier that afternoon, printed on thick paper with gold embossing, an appreciation dinner for legacy contributors to the Aegis Core project. Legacy contributors. Like I was some retired consultant who'd helped out years ago, not the guy who'd invented the whole damn thing. I wore my best suit, charcoal gray, nothing flashy. If you're gonna watch someone hang themselves with their own rope, dress appropriately. Gerald, Russell greeted me at the door like we were old friends. So glad you could make it. After all, none of this would have been possible without your foundational contributions. He wanted that word to hurt. Foundational. Like I'd laid some bricks and moved on instead of designing and building the entire structure. Appreciate the invitation, I said, shaking his hand firmly. And the acknowledgement. Both are pretty rare these days. The dinner table seated 14 people. Russell at the head like a king holding court, his father Lawrence to his right looking proud as punch. The new legal team spread around like bodyguards protecting their investment. I took a seat near the middle, close enough to hear everything, positioned where I could see everyone's faces when the show started. The champagne was Dom Perignon, probably $300 a bottle. Lawrence stood up first, raising his glass with the practiced gesture of a man who'd made a lot of victory speeches. To the next generation, he declared, to innovation, to leadership, and to the Coleman family legacy. Everyone raised their glasses. I lifted mine but didn't drink. Figured I should stay sharp for what was coming. Russell stood next, grinning like he'd just won the lottery, which in his mind he probably had. Tonight we celebrate more than a business acquisition, he said, voice carrying that rehearsed confidence of someone who'd practiced this speech in the mirror. We're celebrating the future. Aegis Core now belongs fully to Coleman Technologies, integrated into our corporate structure, ready to revolutionize how America protects its most sensitive data. He looked directly at me when he said fully belongs. The little punk was enjoying this. Integration can be tricky, I said casually, cutting into my steak. Complex systems are sensitive to ownership transfers. You just want to make sure all the proper authorizations are in place before you flip the switch. A few people around the table chuckled, thinking it was just technical shop talk. Russell's smile flickered for half a second before he recovered. Our legal team assures me everything is properly documented, he said, but I caught the slight edge in his voice. Good, I said, taking another bite. Just make sure someone backs up the core systems before sunrise. You know how finicky quantum encryption can be during ownership transitions. The way I said it, casual, conversational, like I was reminding him to check the weather forecast, made a couple of people pause mid-chew. Lawrence Coleman was watching me now, probably trying to figure out if I was making some kind of threat or just offering technical advice. Truth is, it was both. Dinner continued with the usual corporate small talk. Market projections, expansion plans, industry gossip. I answered the polite questions about my transition plans with the standard responses about consulting opportunities and taking some time off. What I didn't mention was the 17 years I'd spent building safeguards into every system I'd ever touched at Coleman. In the Navy, we called it defense in depth. You don't just build one wall, you build layers of protection, each one designed to activate if the previous layer fails. Halfway through dessert, a server appeared with a cream-colored envelope. Federal letterhead, official seal, the kind of mail that makes corporate executives break out in cold sweats. Urgent delivery for Mr. Russell Coleman, the kid said, looking nervous. Russell frowned, probably wondering who'd track him down at a private dinner. He tore open the envelope, and I watched his face go from confusion to concern to something approaching panic. What is it? Lawrence asked. Russell cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice steady. Just a routine compliance check. Patent Office wants to verify some documentation. But I could see his hands shaking slightly as he folded the letter. The message was simple enough. Federal Patent Registry requires immediate verification of signature authorization for patent number US 2847-392. Discrepancies detected in ownership transfer documentation. That was the beauty of Clause 21.3. It wasn't some hidden backdoor or illegal hack. It was completely legitimate legal protection that I'd built into my original employment contract, buried deep in the technical specifications that most lawyers skimmed over. The federal patent database had my biometric signature linked to every piece of Aegis core technology. When Russell tried to claim ownership without proper dual authentication, the system automatically flagged it for review. I stood up, dabbed my mouth with the cloth napkin. "Thanks for dinner, Russell, Lawrence." It was educational. I paused at my chair, looking around the table at all these people who'd just spent 3 hours celebrating intellectual property theft. "You know what I learned tonight? Success looks different depending on where you're sitting. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day." The drive home was quiet, just me and the radio playing some old classic rock. The city looked peaceful at night, street lights reflecting off glass buildings, late commuters heading home from honest jobs. My phone rang around midnight. Lawrence Coleman this time, not Russell. "Gerald, we need to talk. I'm listening. This patent office situation, there seems to be some confusion about the documentation. Our lawyers are saying there might be issues with the transfer authorization." I pulled into my driveway, turned off the engine. "Lawrence, there's no confusion. The system is working exactly as designed." "What system? What are you talking about?" Clause 21.3, the Mirror Vault Protocol. The legal safeguard that Howard Stevens and I built into my contract 17 years ago specifically to prevent unauthorized IP transfers. Long pause. I could almost hear him flipping through legal documents, probably calling his lawyers at midnight to figure out what the hell I was talking about. "Gerald, be reasonable. Russell made a mistake, but he's young. We can work this out. Name your price. This isn't about money, Lawrence. Then what? You want your job back? A promotion? Equity stake?" I looked up at my apartment building, thinking about my mother's medical bills, about Danny trying to build his own career, about all the Saturday mornings I'd missed with my family because Coleman needed just one more emergency fix. I want integrity back in the industry. I want merit to matter more than last names. I want 17 years of my work to be recognized for what it is. You're talking about destroying the company over hurt feelings. I'm talking about enforcing the law. The same law your son ignored when he decided to steal my life's work. Lawrence's voice got harder. "You do realize Russell's announcement has already moved the stock price. Investors are committed based on our ownership of Aegis Core. If you pull some legal stunt now, you'll wipe out millions in market value. Then you should have thought about that before you let your boy play with patents that didn't belong to him." I hung up and went inside. At 4:30 a.m., I was already awake, coffee brewing, watching the first hint of dawn creep across the skyline. My laptop showed system diagnostics running in real time, encryption seeds synchronizing with federal databases, authentication protocols verifying digital signatures. The Mirror Vault was fully activated now. Every Coleman system connected to Aegis Core was pinging the federal registry, asking for confirmation that Russell Coleman had authority to access Gerald Brooks' intellectual property. The answer, of course, was no at exactly 5:45 a.m. As the sun cleared the horizon and painted the Coleman building golden, every light in the tower began to flicker. Not a power surge, something much more systematic. It was sequence activation. The Sunrise Protocol Howard Stevens and I had designed as the ultimate failsafe, triggered only when someone tried to steal patented technology without proper authorization. I finished my coffee and got dressed. Time to watch justice work the way it was supposed to. Every monitor in the building flashed white, then displayed the same message in bold black letters. License revoked, Federal Registry override activated. Authorized owner, G. Brooks, 17 years of Russell's collaborative innovation, vanished in about 60 seconds. Every system, every contract, every piece of technology tied to my patents automatically locked down pending federal review. The ripple effect moved faster than any human could react. Domestic banking networks first, the ones using Coleman's encryption for wire transfers, then international financial systems, then the defense contracts that Russell had been bragging about on national television. Within 10 minutes, every major institution using Aegis Core technology received the same automated message: service suspended pending ownership verification. Contact Federal Patent Office for details. My phone started ringing around 6:15 a.m. Lawrence again, but this time his voice was pure panic. "Gerald, what did you do?" "The stock is crashing. Everything's frozen. The FBI just called asking about securities fraud. I was sitting on my balcony watching the sunrise paint the city gold." "Beautiful morning, really? Lawrence, I didn't do anything. The system did exactly what it was designed to do. By noon, the headlines were everywhere. Tech giant collapses after patent dispute. Coleman stock dropped 68% in opening hour. FBI investigating possible securities fraud. The footage was almost surreal. Investors gathered outside Coleman headquarters, clutching their phones, watching their portfolios evaporate in real time. Russell getting escorted to a black SUV by federal agents, no longer looking like the confident young executive from yesterday's press conference. 6 months later, I was sitting in a much different kind of conference room, glass walls overlooking downtown, but smaller, cleaner, more honest than anything at Coleman. The nameplate on the door read Brooks Security Systems. Dennis Foster sat across from me, the junior engineer who'd followed me out of Coleman when everything collapsed. Kid had real talent. Just needed someone to believe in him the way Howard Stevens had believed in me. The Department of Defense contract came through, Dennis said, sliding a folder across the table. $2.1 billion over 7 years. They want the next generation of Aegis technology for the new satellite defense network. I opened the folder, scanned the numbers. It was more money than I'd ever imagined when I was 32 years old, starting over at Coleman with nothing but Navy discipline and some big ideas about quantum encryption. My computer chimed with a new email, subject line, Federal Innovation Award, Lifetime Achievement Recognition. The message was from the Patent Office, officially recognizing my contributions to national security technology. 17 years after I'd started building Aegis Core in a cramped lab at Coleman, the federal government was finally acknowledging who actually deserved the credit. I forwarded the email to Howard Stevens with a simple note. Built it right, protected it well. His reply came back 5 minutes later. Proud of you, Gerald. Justice took its time, but it got there. That evening, I called my mother to tell her she didn't need to worry about medical bills anymore. Then I called Danny to let him know his old man wasn't such a failure after all. Looking back now, the whole thing wasn't really about revenge. It was about truth, about making sure the people who create things get credit for creating them, about proving that integrity and patience can beat arrogance and entitlement even when the deck seems stacked against you. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens and handcuffs. Sometimes it comes quietly like the sunrise, changing everything without making a sound. And sometimes if you build your safeguards right and wait for the perfect moment, the truth protects itself. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens and handcuffs. Sometimes it comes quietly, like the sunrise, changing everything without making a sound. And sometimes if you build your safeguards right and wait for the perfect moment, the truth protects itself. The real victory wasn't destroying Coleman Technologies. It was proving that in a world where connections often matter more than competence, patience and preparation can still beat privilege and arrogance. I learned that the most powerful revenge isn't what you do to your enemies, but what you build for yourself after they've shown you exactly who they really are.